You are watching the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, your escape to reality.
That was cool.
Hey everyone, welcome to our Friday live stream. How you doing, guys?
What up? Doing good.
Not bad.
All right, I guess.
We have a guest with us, Noah. Noah, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Noah. Hello, Noah.
Guys,
So-
thanks for having me.
Yeah, Noah has been listening to the show for a very long time, and he listened to our live stream from 2 weeks ago, and he heard us talking about Bruce Lee and whatnot, and he emailed me and wanted to have a discussion. I said, just come on the live stream, and we could just have the discussion in front of everyone else that heard that live stream 2 weeks ago. So we're gonna revisit that, the whole was Bruce Lee legit question that is, that a lot of people seem to have different opinions on. But we don't have to start with that. And Noah, you don't have to stay on the whole show. I don't know if you just wanted to talk about that, or if you wanted to, you could stay on as long as you want.
Welcome to hang out as long as you want.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, there's a quiz later. So,
So, a very fun quiz on a very hot topic.
oh, yeah. So,
We're getting
No
into
spoilers.
politics and stuff.
Wait, who wrote the quiz today?
Evan did.
I did.
Oh, okay. It's on a hot topic.
Yeah, taxes.
All right.
Hot.
Oh,
Hey,
it's on-
don't
it's
give it
about
away.
Texas? All right.
It's a
We
very
said it last week. We
hot-
said last
no.
week it was going to be on.
right, but people they don't remember things.
Yeah, they don't
That
remember
was a
from one
week
day to the
ago,
next.
man. Come
So
on.
if any of you guys can hear, I am actually very sick right now. I got tested for COVID just to make sure it wasn't COVID, but I have and I'm not, I tested negative. I have very hard and serious flu-like symptoms that have been kicking my ass for the last 4 days. But I did not want to miss the live stream because I really don't have to do anything. I don't have to think, and I don't have to speak correctly like I do on the SGU. I could just be a mess.
A hot live Friday night.
But I was worried that I might have had COVID because, what else could it be? If I have a virus, but, my whole family tested negative, and statistically the chances of all of us, we got the better test as well. So
The
statistically,
PCR, yeah.
the PCR thing, there's no way that 6 people all got negative, incorrectly. So my
But
daughter must
you're
have,
still quarantining though.
of course, because I don't want to give anyone the flu if I have the flu. I'm just hoping it's not the flu, but it feels like the flu.
Although COVID is surging in Connecticut,
Really?
where the hospitalizations are starting to significantly go up. We are,
Wonderful.
yeah. So my hospital is gearing up for a third wave, is what they're saying. So we'll see what happens.
Yikes.
Someone said just one rant and get some sleep. Yeah, start with the rant and get to it. I mean, I can tell you how pissed off I am. I haven't been sick for well over a year because of COVID, right? Because of the pandemic and being isolated at home.
Mm-hmm.
My kids used to bring home every disgusting little virus that crept through those schools, and I would catch everything from my kids because my kids are all over me.
Yep.
So I was like, oh my God, I've had such a healthy year, and this whatever I have right now is reminding me of how shitty a virus is and how horrible oh man, I was so dead tired that I was falling asleep at 7 o'clock. like, and sleeping until like 10 o'clock the next morning. That's how total this thing is kicking my
Knocks
ass.
you out.
Yep.
Sure does.
Mhm.
But I was freaked out, man. I'm like, before I got the negative on the test, I'm like, what else could it be? You know what I mean? But apparently there is a flu going around, which is probably what I got. So that
Steve,
doesn't count as a
when does
rant,
flu
though.
season typically end?
Flu season?
Yeah.
It usually trails
June?
off in March.
Yeah.
Well, tails off.
Yes, we're at the tail end of the flu season now, but it's a weird year. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Numbers are crazy low for the flu because everyone's wearing a mask.
Noah, are you in Arizona still?
Yeah.
So let's get into the Bruce Lee thing. So let me remind everybody. 2 weeks ago, we talked about, I don't know how we stumbled on this, but we ended up talking about Bruce Lee and his style, and was he legit? And it was an interesting discussion, and there was a lot of chat going on with some people were agreeing and some people were disagreeing. Bob found it very interesting that he and I watched that an MMA fighter was describing Bruce Lee's legit fighting style that he was doing while training his students. But no, you had some interesting things to say, and I'd like let's go over it from the top because you talked to me a little bit. What do you think?
Yeah, so it pretty much went from George was with you guys, and he was asking if he was legit, right?
Yeah.
So, and I was like, that's funny to even ask, because I was like, pretty much everybody ranks Bruce Lee as being the greatest,
Right, yeah.
kind of like Michael Jordan. So I was like, where did that come from? And then then I understood the woo, and then he brought up the Quentin Tarantino movie, and I know that scene with him and Brad Pitt fighting.
Yeah,
as pretty controversial amongst some people. I don't think Bruce Lee's family was very happy about that.
I wasn't very happy.
Yeah,
I
and
read
a lot
that
of
too.
Bruce Lee's, a lot of fans weren't happy.
I
just saw it as a movie, and I kind of it didn't. I didn't like it, but I'm like, it's a movie, not Bruce Lee. And but in any case, the thing was I was thinking, I've read his book. A lot of people, I think, forget what his philosophy really was, and like the thing that he brought was really about adapting new styles and basically just using what works.
Yeah,
he was the first person to really teach people outside of his own race, out of his own, just anybody who wanted to learn, he would teach, and that was pretty unknown then, because even now there's still a lot of you don't train with this gym, you don't train with that gym.
Yeah,
almost like Cobra Kai. And but then because I grew up doing just Shaolin martial arts, and I think you guys said something about doing something similar.
Yeah, Shaolin Kung
Taekwondo.
Fu. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
but first, Steve, it was Shaolin Kung Fu.
Yeah, it was mixed actually. He was mixed style, mostly Kung Fu, and then we took Taekwondo. And
Which
then when
most people do
we were
think
done with that,
Taekwondo
it was Taekwondo.
Jesus, Steve. But my memory, so Noah, I took some karate lessons too after these guys did. I was too young when they were taking theirs. But man, my memory of what I was learning was complete. It was like daycare. It wasn't legit at all. It was like there was no technique. It was just like, remember we were learning these stupid forms where we're turning around and like making moves and shit. It was bullshit. I wanted to learn how to fight and use weapons when I was 12 years old.
Yeah. Back then, when you're really little, it's like PE.
Yeah.
You play dodgeball and stuff.
But I considered, since I have watched every single movie that Bruce Lee has done, I considered myself halfway to black belt just because I watched the movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of people, after the UFC and the Ultimate Fighter show came out, a lot of people thought the same thing, because they would come into the gym and they're like, "Oh, I don't know how to fight." You would show them, like, you don't even know how to punch yet.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh no, I watch UFC all the time."
Yeah, I watched it on TV, so therefore I'm an expert.
Then you get kicked in the leg one time, and deer in the headlights.
Yeah, that's right. The one good shot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then you don't see them anymore.
Yeah, because it turns out that fighting is painful, even if you're good. So, from a trained eye perspective, have you watched Bruce Lee, fight with his, train with his students and fight where you could see that he knows what he's doing?
Yeah, well, there's like little things. Not, of course, not in the movies though, because he would say that you can't really film a real fight because it would be too boring. It would be over in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But that's how a real fight is. It should last like 30 seconds. And
Yeah, have you seen
so
videos
it's
of the
like,
Hoist Gracie fights when he would, he would fight, he'd do these underground fights or demos against people who would want to challenge him. If you go on YouTube and you watch those, they are all less than 30 seconds, all of them.
Yep.
And
they're
that's
like a blur.
Yep, it's over quick.
Is that because basically you take one good hit and you're down? It's like whoever gets the first really solid hit and wins.
So just an example, you want to, when you throw a punch, you don't want to be like in a movie, a big whooping where you see it coming. It would just be a straight.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
You can't time that.
Yeah, and this is where reading about Bruce Lee and watching videos, his speed was, he obtained a speed that you could only get if you actually trained. You're right.
Yeah.
One guy said the way that he cocked his leg, he didn't do you could tell that he knew exactly what he's doing because he got his leg up to kick, he cocked his knee, and then the power just came from him extending that. It wasn't like his whole body was doing it. And that MMA fighter said, only professionals know that. So he had to know what he was doing.
Same thing with his boxing. I can tell if somebody knows how to box, and I just have to watch you shadow box for like 5 seconds. I mean, you can just tell. I tell your movement. Are you fainting? Your footwork's gonna really tell everything.
Yep.
Well, real quick, let me throw in. I did a deep dive on that video. So this was a video. It's called "How Good Really Was Bruce Lee." Real Sparring Analysis. This is by the Weasel. Have you heard of the Weasel? I'm not sure. I tried to look up this guy. He definitely knows his mixed martial arts. It seems to me. He's got a 250,000 subscribers for whatever that's worth. But so he actually had footage of Bruce Lee fighting his students. It was like training his students, and they were all geared up. You couldn't even tell who was who until you saw Bruce Lee move. Then it was clearly him. So this is what the guy said. He said that a lot of people think that he was never really a fighter, Bruce Lee, that he doesn't know the fighting or techniques, and that when he looks at that video, he doesn't see that. He said he obviously has experience, that he clearly developed the experience through things like training, actual drills, and sparring and visualization, and everything to develop the instincts that he obviously had. And he said that you don't come to an actor. It doesn't come to an actor like that. He clearly was not somebody who was a martial arts actor. He clearly knew his stuff. And it said that, let's see, that he said that a lot of MMA evolved very rapidly in the 90s. The changes were very, very fast. He said more evolution than almost any other time in history. And that many of the techniques that Bruce Lee used were shown to be very effective 20, 25, 30, 35 years later when UFC became really popular. And he makes pains to say that he's not saying that Bruce Lee created these techniques, but rather the fact that elite UFC fighters use similar techniques to great effect, and that Bruce Lee incorporated it in his game. And that shows at the level he was at, 50 years ago. It shows that he was way ahead of his time in the late 60s. And this is still 6 years before he died. I'm not sure how much more he progressed from 67 to 73. So it was the video was great. It was great to see Bruce Lee actually sparring. But even though you see him sparring in this video, some of the commenters saying that he really looks like he's holding back, and he clearly was holding back, because he's not going to take out his students, and he's clearly had opportunities. And sometimes you see him clowning around a little bit by sticking his head and stuff. But you really can get a sense of what he could do, and it looked very impressive to me. And he impressed this reviewer. He impressed him very well. So I really, kind of vindicates my feeling of Bruce Lee as a real fighter, and not somebody who was just a fighting technician for movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that goes back to because I read his book. He wrote the book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do,
Yeah, I got that.
and it's the whole philosophy. I wrote a book report about it in high school.
Cool.
I obsessed over it. So remember, because I kept the paper because I got such a good grade on it, but and because I was living that. The whole Confucius mentality, this Eastern philosophy, and I wanted to learn how to move things with my mind. So it was like a lot of chi power stuff in there, metaphysics. I was going to school for electronics and computer technology, so I was learning about I was learning about physics at the time. So I was like, hey, you never know. And then but it really taught me the whole mindset of paradoxical thinking, and then I found skepticism through that. And then I was like, hey man, most of this isn't even work. But really got to the root of the philosophy was, using what works. That's why he had wrestling in his book. He had boxing in his book.
Yeah.
He had Sabat in his book. He had Muay Thai. He had Jiu-Jitsu, wrist locks, way before anything. And then a little bit of Wing Chun.
Yeah, because he learned Wing Chun first, as far as I could tell, and then he developed Jeet Kune Do, which means way of the intercepting fist. So that somebody was asking online, did he study Wing Chun? And he did. He definitely studied that before he developed Jeet Kune Do.
Ian, can we see one of the videos real quick?
Sure. Let me pull up the first one.
I queued up a couple of, I think, 3 video shorts here. We can just watch Bruce Lee kick ass. So this one just quickly shows how fast he was, and when Bruce Lee was doing the Green Hornet, they actually didn't want to use him because he was so fast that the frame rate of the camera wasn't capturing his movements because he was moving faster than the frames were. So they told him to slow down, and it still wasn't good enough, and they were having a problem because he was so epically fast.
Yeah, I remember hearing that story too.
Yeah, I mean, all right, that's good for that one. Anyone who hasn't seen this movie, just go see it because it's just a kung fu.
It's wonderfully
love fest.
campy now. It's so dated, but
it's true.
It's fun. It's just good.
But keep this in mind.
Well, remember,
it was the first kung fu movie that had. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is like the lore, because I haven't seen every kung fu movie. But that was the first kung fu movie that had the kung fu tournament as a device, right? Is that true?
Oh, I don't know. I hadn't heard that, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
No,
I don't know.
I don't know that.
I'm not sure, but it does seem right because I don't think I've seen any. I own a lot of Shaw Brother movies and a lot of old school, and I know it was the basis for like Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah, but a lot of movies pick that up. The kung fu tournament now was like
guy on the island holding a tournament since this though. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good movie too. I like that one. All right, go ahead. Show the other one. These are just for fun. Bruce Lee was for what I see, he's so kick-ass. It just blows my mind. and just so people know, I know that these are fake. This is a movie, but he still is moving his body and throwing kicks and doing backflips and shit that nobody was doing back then.
Yeah, these things are great.
Martial artists.
What's that, Noah?
There are legit martial artists that are in the scene too. Like the guy he was fighting, that guy was a legit black belt.
Jackie, like I said, like last week, Jackie Chan was in it. Is in it as well. But my favorite scene, I think, had to be I remember the enthusiasm I was building up watching this as a kid, and the underground scenes in the dungeon areas. That huge fight scene when he gets captured, it just blew me away.
Yeah. The 70s music in Enter the Dragon is so 70s. Oh my God. It's so, if you like, when you listen to it, I mean, they literally have every 70s thing that makes music in the 70s feel like the 70s they use in that movie. It's so cool.
This is the one that you were talking about?
Yeah, just, we could just look at this for 15 seconds or so.
John Saxon, gotta love him.
Yeah.
I know, but compared to Bruce Lee, he looks like he's moving through water, you know?
Sure, but he's still great.
Why would anyone stand there and take 5 kicks to the face?
I know, right? All right. That's good. If we keep watching it, I'm not going to want it to end. So anyway, I thought that we needed to clarify because I felt like we ended up sorry, Noah, real quick. I thought we ended on a note where we were still not 100% clear as much as like we fanboy over Bruce Lee. I wasn't sure, and I wanted to, I like that you emailed us because it gave me some time to, especially since I've been sick, to like do some research.
Right. Yeah, and that brings up a good point too. What I was emailing you about too about Kareem, and him being a student too.
Oh yeah,
and
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Right, because Kareem was actually my high school basketball coach in 1999 at Alceste High School.
No way.
In Arizona. He was writing a book, or I'm sure if it was a book, or I know he was doing research for the Buffalo Soldiers. So I brought him to the Fort Apache. That's where Fort Apache is located. So yeah, he met up with the elder named Edgar Perry, and they started down this whole road. And he actually wrote a book.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Where he did a year of coaching basketball team, and I actually one day got to talk to him about Bruce Lee.
No way. Spill it.
So I'm intentionally staying late for practice, and I'm wearing my Shaolin Arts shirt on purpose, and then I just start trying to give moves in front of him. Yeah. And then he just comes up like, "Hey, you did Shaolin Arts?" And then I was like, "Oh yeah." And then,
oh yes, Kareem. As a matter of fact, I did.
So did you tell me over email that he taught you martial arts?
No, I talked to him about martial arts. He signed my book, and he taught me more about basketball than he did martial arts. But
yeah.
He was also our speaker for our graduation, and it was just a whole cool experience.
Yeah, sure.
Like somebody about.
I remember like when we were watching, of course I never even knew the guy existed until we saw the Game of Death, the ending of Game of Death when he was one of the boss fights. And Bob, you were the one that like had all the information about who he was and that he was a student of Bruce Lee. And
Lou Alcindor.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I used to actually be a fan of his when I was younger because I just thought it was really cool that he trained with Lee and everything. So remember when Bruce Lee kicks him and he had his footprint on his shirt? I thought that would make a great T-shirt just to have his footprint,
on your shirt.
I like it. Hey Noah, so what did Kareem say about Bruce Lee? Any specifics?
I don't remember anything specifically.
He was short.
No. That's one thing I remember is just thinking tall.
Yeah,
7 feet, right?
He goes on forever. That guy.
It was one of those moments like you meet somebody and you like have all these things and then you just freeze.
Yeah, you blank out.
Yep.
I know.
Absolutely. You saw my book.
Yeah, I know. Like you just become simple-minded for the entire time you're standing in front. I know. It happens to us all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, you got lucky, man. I don't think I will ever meet anyone that directly knew Bruce Lee like that. That's cool as hell.
But now you met somebody who met somebody who met.
Yeah,
Bruce
so
Lee.
I have 6 degrees.
Yeah,
2 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
All right, so I think we
for
the sake of the audience members that don't like this, because we are such fanboys of Bruce Lee that we could go on and on and on because I'm editing the hell out of what I'm saying. Let's just move on to something else. No, feel free to stay. We're all family.
What
here.
shall we talk about?
So, I did because I've been sick all week. I've been thinking about, the idea that a lot of people just straight up forgot that there's other things that, you could get sick. Everybody thought it's just, we only have to worry about COVID, and here I am with the flu, and I never thought that I'd get the flu during a pandemic like this. Right. And it just blows my mind that other diseases are still going around when we're being so cautious about something that's way more virulent than COVID, or less virulent than COVID, right, Steve?
You trying to say virulent?
Virulent, yeah. Thanks. Hey, it's me.
Well, like when HIV became a thing, other sexually transmitted diseases took a nosedive because people were trying to avoid catching HIV, which is a good way to avoid catching all other sexually transmitted diseases. But then they stabilize. They reach their equilibrium point eventually. But it's the same kind of phenomenon. So definitely, the flu is down to like 5% of what it would normally be, but it's not 0%. You can still get it.
Isn't it possible though? And this is one of the things I was thinking about. Isn't it possible that if we isolated enough that we could just straight up get rid of influenza?
No.
Why?
Because it has non-human reservoirs. The flu can survive in birds and pigs and other animals.
But if we killed all of them,
yeah, but
yeah.
So you can only eradicate infectious diseases that have no non-human reservoirs. Theoretically, if the virus can go back out into the wild and then come back and reinfect people, then we're not going to be able to completely get rid of it.
Yeah.
But you can eliminate it. You can reduce it to the point where it's only going to come back from animals. It's not spreading around the human population. It's not.
But then it would just build back up, though, right? I mean, at that point, once people got infected again, wouldn't it tend to just go back?
Well, it depends. Like if we have a super vaccinated population,
if you got some community immunity going on, you're good.
You might get some outbreaks, but the outbreaks don't go beyond an outbreak, right? It doesn't become an epidemic, doesn't become a pandemic. So that's like we get for a while we had eliminated measles. There were still outbreaks in the United States, but it never became endemic. Yeah. Now, of course, with thank you anti-vaxxers, it is coming back to the point where it's getting endemic again, and we're getting crazy numbers.
Did you read that they did a study? I don't know who it was. I can't remember because I've been so stoned out all week. But they found out that there was 12 primary sources of misinformation about vaccines. That it's literally all of the information's coming from 12 different sources, which is not a lot.
Or most of it, not all of it. Yeah, there were definitely some super spreaders. Out there.
Like Kennedy was one at the top of the list.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Right, which is why we target these people, right?
Yeah.
Like why do we pick on Kennedy? It's like because these people are super spreaders of misinformation, and they deserve our attention and our criticism. To try to minimize the damage that they do.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Oz, why do we talk about that jack off? Because he's the same thing. He's a super spreader of misinformation.
Tune in tomorrow. We'll have a little talk about that.
Yeah, he comes up in the show this week too.
Noah, how bad was and is COVID in Arizona right now?
I feel like it's still really bad, even though our governor says otherwise. Now they just opened up everything.
Yeah.
I mean, even more so.
Yeah, well, that's
and all the mask mandates and no distancing anymore.
Unbelievable.
But I did try to get a vaccine, and then I'm encouraged by the fact that I can't. All appointments are booked. So
yeah, it's hard to get the vaccine is kind of a good thing. I mean, a lot of other people are getting it too.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, if you're currently trying to schedule yourself on VAMS, you got to go back every day. Openings happen every day. They have more openings are coming up. I've rescheduled mine 3 times at this point because I'm getting better dates. I had to move it again because I don't want to get a vaccine when I'm sick. I'm not supposed to get vaccinated when you're sick, so I pushed it out another week now. But there are dates are popping up, so you got to keep going back.
Yep, check every day. I am.
Well, Steve, can you explain that? Why aren't you supposed to get a shot when you're sick?
Well, because your immune system is busy fighting off whatever illness you have. You don't want to give it another stressor, during that time. You may not get the optimal response to the vaccine.
That tracks
finite
perfectly with-
resources.
Yeah.
That's like my psychology in my life. Like if I have more than one thing that's stressing me out, you are not going to get a good response from me.
Yeah. Finite resources,
Yeah.
Evan,
the,
what is that splotch behind you?
Oh yeah, Evan.
Well, let me fix it because this is the original puzzle, so you can appreciate it in its original context.
Yes.
So here we go. All right. Steve asked, "What is the splotch behind me?" Hang on,
That is the perfect word.
Let me get my
for it.
pointing wand here.
It does look like a
Monica,
coastline, right?
Yeah. So the hint was, and I put out the hint. I posted it on the Facebook page and also to the Discord people. This is a country. Okay.
Yep.
So just think about what you know of countries and their outlines and figure out which one it is.
All right. So the black is the water.
No, the black is the country.
It's the country. Okay.
Yes. And this little piece here is part of
An
the country
island.
as well. So that's may not be a familiar sight to many people. For those of us who do look at maps and stuff on a regular basis, we might say, oh, okay, we can name quite a few countries based on their shape. But how are you looking at that map?
Yeah.
Which way is north? Is this north? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
this case, north is this way. We're looking at it upside down. So what we're going to do now is invert it, right? Swing it around.
My first thought was Australia, but it doesn't quite
No.
match
No,
it.
not Australia. There were a lot of guesses for Greenland.
Yeah. That's what
for-
I was going to say. That's not
some for-
Greenland, huh?
Some for Ireland, some for Iceland. But if I rotate it that way, that might become a more familiar sight to people. And it is. When I turned it, a lot of people lit up the screen and said basically, yeah, that's South Korea.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
Sure enough is. LT from the Discord channel for our patrons. He guessed it correctly while it was upside down. So good job for him. And then some other people followed up, and then I switched it, turned it upside down, and a lot of people realized, yep, South Korea. So,
yeah, without
perspective.
orientation and
Just
size,
south?
that's the other thing. Like you could take little things and present, like, is that a continent? Is that an island? What is that? There'd be a lot of things that would be difficult to recognize.
A lot of things it could be, but I did give a hint. I typed it in there for people that it was a country, so that was to help. I ran out of time. I was going to put a little descriptor over here, but time ran away from me today because I also prepared the quiz for today, so I was kind of limited. Plus,
We'll
it is
get that
tax
to that
season,
in a little bit.
Yep.
Evan, thanks for doing that, by the way, because
Oh yeah.
there's no chance I was getting to that today.
I
I'm
knew-
actually just
I
from
knew you needed
sitting
some
up and
help this
talking
week.
to.
No problem.
What's that?
Yeah, I knew you needed some help this week. Happy to pitch in.
Just from sitting up and talking to you guys like this, like I'm starting to get really dizzy. It's like legit, like I need to go lie
Okay.
down.
Are you keeping well hydrated?
I have been, because you told me that very forcefully. I have been over drinking. I've been.
What are you
hitting
drinking?
the bottle? Vodka. Yeah. No, I'm just drinking ice water.
Sorry, and
You
Brent.
should drink Gatorade, like I told you. If you overdo the water, you dilute your electrolytes.
Maybe that's why I'm so dizzy.
You need the electrolytes.
But I mean,
Today
if you're eating enough, it's not a big deal. But
Yeah, I'm eating.
Today I bought Gatorade Zero, so it's got 0 calories. It's
Yeah.
Oh yeah, get
delicious.
sugar-free. Yeah.
No, it actually means that only zeros like you would buy Gatorade.
I got Gatorade Zero electrolytes.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it doesn't have less electrolytes. But why would they do
Or
that?
fewer.
I mean, that's fewer. Yes, that's the whole shtick of Gatorade, right? It's got the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why we suffer it because it's doing
No, that's-
something
It's
for
I
us.
like it. It's not
that's
bad.
That
delicious,
original
man.
Gatorade flavor. Remember in 1980 when it first came out? It
I always
tasted.
liked it.
Ooh, gosh, it was like spoiled Mountain Dew or something.
All right, let me ask you guys a question.
Go ahead. Hurry up.
So, how well do you think math describes reality?
damn
Actually,
well.
It's a deceptively
well-
difficult question. So let me give you a specific example. Let's take irrational numbers.
Okay.
Irrational.
Irrational numbers like I.
Yes.
Can you have I number of something? Or is that just an abstraction that is a tool used to do math, but doesn't really directly reference anything in reality.
My guess is it's an abstraction. That would be my guess.
I think it's an abstraction and also reflects reality in specific ways.
What ways?
I mean,
but Bob, don't you have to assign it that you have to assign it the meaning? You have to say I equals something, and then you have to say what that something is and qualify why I is what its value is. Isn't that?
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I haven't done a deep dive on this, but I'm sure that there's plenty of equations that use I in ways that reflect, that map directly to nature. I would bet serious money on that. And
why would you say that?
Because math. I think one of the questions is not does math map to reality, is why does it map so well? That's the question that people ask, not that question.
Yeah.
So the fact that you asked it, it makes me think I even know the answer even more. That yes, it does.
I wouldn't be asking it if the answer was this. Oh, but yeah, I is imaginary, not irrational.
Right.
But the same thing applies to imaginary numbers or irrational numbers. The same question, like the square root of 2.
Square root of -2.
Square root of -2.
Right.
But wait, so
I
Steve,
is the square root of -1.
Right.
Yeah. I think the
Clarify
square
that.
root of 2 is irrational.
I'm confused about the question. I'm confused about the
It's
question.
conceptually difficult, but here's the thing, and this is the reason why I'm asking it, because recently, so let me put it this way: a lot of quantum mechanical calculations formula use imaginary numbers.
Makes sense because quantum mechanics.
The thinking was that these were just, they use complex numbers. When you have real numbers and imaginary numbers together, and they thought it was just a mathematical convenience, but didn't really reflect reality. But now there's a study which shows that the like imaginary number I is a real quantum mechanical property in certain conditions. It's not just a mathematical convenience. It actually reflects reality.
Absolutely.
At the quantum level.
Of course. With with some quantum mechanical property. I haven't really wrapped my head fully around the experiment yet. Maybe we'll get into it during the show next week. But you can create two different quantum states of photons that the only difference between them can be described with an imaginary number. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, like a superposition of two states.
But can you describe emotion with math?
Yeah, I mean, you could describe networks of neurons firing, mathematically to a certain degree, and
depends on how reductive you want to be.
Right, and those the emotions are derived from those networks. So yeah, you can, but it's not at a like Steve said, it's not at a really reductionist level, not the level that we would like it to be, but sure.
Yeah, but that's that's why I'm confused about the question, because I'm like sitting over here, half passing out, trying to think about whether or not you can use math to actually describe reality on a human level, where you're like thinking, how
it has to be something that is quantifiable.
Yeah, but
so
everything is
if there are things that are
quantifiable.
not quantifiable, then no.
No, but everything is quantifiable, like Bob described. But you can't express something intangible as an emotion or a flavor.
But Jay Iron Man did that. He said, "I love you 3,000."
Yeah.
Yeah. See, there's a number.
All right,
that's pretty specific.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Right, but Jay, the question is then, will some of those things, as ineffable as emotion, ever be quantifiable?
Maybe.
Or is it just a lack of knowledge at this point? I think that it will be. It will be quantifiable. Many of these things will be.
But still, the idea is that for quantifiable things, like you can have one apple, you can have a half of an apple, right? As long as you're describing it in terms of real numbers, you can define how many of a thing that you have. But you just can't have apples, like an imaginary number of apples. But in the quantum world, apparently you can. You can have an imaginary number of some quantum property. And that's a new thing. Of course, this is because it's new, it still has to go through the meat grinder of the scientific community. But it's if this holds up, it really is a switch in the way that physicists think about this thing.
Yep.
And,
Yeah, I'm gonna read about that.
I think I know.
Yeah, I know. I mean, again, I just read this before this live stream, so I'm still wrapping my head around it. But and of course, it had to be quantum, right? Like the how counterintuitive
Bob,
is quantum mechanics. It even it deals with imaginary numbers of properties or whatever.
So so theoretically here, right? Because I'm speaking theoretically. I don't want anyone to get confused.
Yeah.
Since I don't know how many meatballs I will make for the rest of my life, it's an unknown number. You could say that I will make I number of meatballs.
No, but you're just thinking of I as a variable. But I'm talking about I is specifically referring to an imaginary number, the square root of -1.
Okay.
Which cannot be otherwise expressed as a real number. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, I get that. I guess.
Yeah, it kind of breaks your head, like a lot of aspects of quantum mechanics. It kind of breaks your head when you think about it. How can that be? Does it make any sense? It's like imagining for a fourth spatial dimension. Your brain cannot imagine it.
This gets to a deeper question, which I'm just torturing Jay at this point. But the deeper question is, was math invented or discovered?
Discovered, yes.
Right? So is math something that's out there in the world and we're just figuring out what it is? Or is it an invention for humans to be able to, do calculations for practical reasons? You know what I mean?
Well, I'm thinking discovered.
I've always thought it was both,
But now I'm leaning towards discovered.
Well, I think certainly aspects of it are discovered. Aspects of it do define reality, because there are relationships in how things work and how things develop, and like the inverse square law of radiation, right? Pretty much gravity, pretty much anything that falls off with the inverse square of distance. When mathematics elegantly describes a physical property, it's got to be because it's describing something real. I think geometry is real. I think geometry is probably the most discovered of the mathematical disciplines, and the inverse square law is part of that. Like that's how it just defines three-dimensional space. When you get farther away in a sphere, the intensity or the area of the surface area decreases by the square of the radius. That's just describing reality. You know what I mean? That's discovered. But
I don't understand anything that you're saying right now.
But the question is, are there parts of math where they're just placeholders so we could do operations, but don't have that kind of intimate, elegant relationship with reality? And so people, were thinking, this is sort of getting to the imaginary number thing. Yeah, imaginary numbers are just a notational convenience for mathematicians. It's not really describing reality the way the properties of a sphere are. Like you talked about pi, Bob. Like pi is describing something that actually exists out there in the real world.
Right.
But then even within that, there are things that are invented in terms of how we are describing that reality.
Sure.
Like base 10 is an arbitrary. Yeah, base 10 is an arbitrary
10.
choice.
Absolutely. We could have been base 16,
have 10 fingers.
Base
yeah,
2.
But that doesn't mean anything. That's literally like that's a marker. We had to decide.
Yeah.
Somewhere and there are mathematicians that use other bases to do. We're not locked into base 10.
Right. I know, but I'm just saying that using base 10 is part of mathematics that's invented because it's somewhat arbitrary.
Right.
But
a notation, of course, is invented.
How could math exist without a mind to conceive it, right? Like when you say math, I think math as a language, math as a tool, right? Did a hammer exist before humans? No.
Well, that's like how does a round planet exist without a mind to conceive it? It's similar. That's what we.
I don't agree with that statement at all. Like that's an artifact of gravity and the inertia.
And math could be an artifact of our reality.
Is a sphere a thing? Does a sphere have a real existence, or is it a abstract mathematical concept that only exists in the mind of intelligent beings.
No, because you can hold a sphere. They exist.
Yeah, look at
an
Escher.
object that's an approximation of a sphere, but I'm talking about the abstraction of an actual perfect sphere mathematically. Is that something that exists? Now, if you go back to the ancient Greek philosophers, they thought that reality was made of these abstractions.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
That's right.
That these abstractions, these regular solids, for example, were
Guiding
the
principles
actual
of the
literal
universe.
building blocks of reality. And I think that's incorrect. I mean, we don't believe that to be the case now. That was just
Plus
imposing our description onto reality rather than discovering how reality actually exists.
Well, let me tell you something. Like, is there anything? Are there any atomic movements that are perfectly round? Right? Like, I know that the electron field is not really, it's two states at the same time. But can you accurately say that when you're analyzing the structure of atoms, that perfect circles come into play?
I don't know. Are protons perfect circles, spheres?
I don't know, but let's just say that it was. Okay, let's say it was. Yeah. So there are things that are inherent to this reality, right? In order for material to exist, which it does, matter to exist, then the perfect circle exists because right. But still, like, I wouldn't say that a circle wouldn't exist if there weren't atoms. I know this sounds weird, and I'm probably like tripping balls over here. But the point I'm getting at is I think that they exist merely because of their physicality of it, right? Whether we understand it or not, before brains evolved in our universe.
So it has to have a physicality to be real.
Yeah, to be real.
This gets back to the imaginary number, but the thing, what the physicists discovered was there is a physicality at the quantum level for this imaginary number, and so it does have some physicality.
Things don't have to be physical. I mean, a lot of physicists think that the entirety of the universe is essentially different types of fields. That's it. Everything is a field. That's not you can't say a field is a physical thing.
Why not?
So, I mean, it's not physical in the way
it's not solid, but it's physical.
But it's still something that's a bit of of an abstraction to the human mind. Jay, here, think of it this way, Jay. Think of it this way. I mean, math describes relationships, right? And those relationships would still be there, if there was no mathematics. Human invented mathematics to describe those relationships and discover those relationships.
That's true. Yeah.
So
I don't know. It's very difficult for me to wrap my head around it because it's almost like the chicken or the egg, stupid philosophical question. Like math, when we say math, I think of it as a very human thing, like a language. Like I said, I don't think of it as like a universal empirical.
Well, our notation is a language, but that's like saying the difference between a word and the concept that the word refers to. Yes, we invented the word, but does the concept have a reality independent of our understanding of it? Like, is brightness a thing, whether or not we have a word for it and we can think about it?
Yeah, but brightness is very contextual, right? Because brightness. What does brightness actually mean? We talk about brightness in many different ways. Like these are all just concepts. If you think about it, we're just describing.
Yeah, but those concepts are, again, that's just a limitation of the language. But there are, and it gets more technical and specific when we need it to. But there are. My point is, there's the difference between the word that we use to refer to something and the thing itself, which exists independent of language. And the same is true of math. These mathematical relationships exist out there in reality, independent of our ability to understand them. But then we have the language of math, which is our way of being able to communicate and talk about and also operate, do calculations and whatnot.
Wait a second, though. You said these mathematical relationships exist, and I question that because wait, I'm trying to split this thing here. If you're saying, like, just by the language that you use, saying that these mathematical relationships exist, you're describing it by using math, but if we didn't have a concept of math, right? We didn't develop math as human beings to understand numbers and what math does for us. Though there would when you say like mathematical relationships exist, you're saying that matter has a relationship with other matter, right? That's at its core.
So let me give you another example, which I think will help. Okay. Imagine you have a star that is in between galaxies, right? It's out there in the void between galaxies. It's a rogue star drifting in intergalactic space. And this star has one planet revolving around it. So the bottom line is the only gravity at work here is the star and the planet. All other gravitational forces are way too distant, and you could ignore basically any other at the scale of the solar system. You could ignore any other gravitational forces, right? What path does that planet take around its parent star?
Wow, that's a profound question. I mean, that path was determined when the planet formed.
Yeah, but it has to be an ellipse, right? That planet will be that planet will be traveling around that star in an ellipse, whether we understand it or have a word for it or have a formula to describe it or not. But we discovered the math necessary to describe an ellipse. An ellipse has an independent existence in reality, and we know that because that's the path that planets take around their parent star.
I get that.
Right? With the star at one focus of the ellipse. So anyway, I think that's what I'm getting at. There is a reality, and then there's our ability to describe that reality. And I think there are certain situations where we totally discovered the math that already existed, like being able to describe how planets revolve around their parent stars. But is that true of all of math? Or at some point, do we put in fixes that are just mathematical conveniences that we could do our calculations, but don't have a direct relationship with reality?
Why can't it be a combination of that?
I think it is a combination. That was what I said at the beginning of this conversation. I do think it's a combination. But maybe it's more physical than we thought, right? Is maybe the answer.
Yeah. Well, I would love to hear what, like some of the best philosophical mathematicians would have to say about this. Because,
you could read all about it on the internet.
Yeah, I don't read though.
Right? Or just like the speed of light is a physical property of the universe.
Yeah.
Our ability to put a number to it is just our ability to describe it.
Yeah, if the universe had a character sheet, the speed of light would be like one of its main attributes.
Right? Does that help you understand?
Yeah, that helps about 3% of this audience to understand that.
On that note,
let's do it.
Is it robot time?
Oh, it could be.
I thought we were doing the quiz.
I found real quick. I tell you guys, I found a 4-comic series about the Borg from like 9 years ago.
Nothing comic about that.
And man, let me show you the cover of one of the.
Nice.
It's getting close.
That's cool.
The damn light is.
Well, the artwork is great.
Artwork's fantastic. I'm halfway through. I'm taking my time because it's so good that I'm gonna be pissed when it's over. It's so good. It's really getting me back into the Borg again. I really want to make a nice Borg costume at some point.
I'll tell you, Next Generation seasons 3 and 4 just didn't quite get better than that, did it?
Yeah, I know.
Oh man, love the Borg so much. But yeah, so I recommend it. Check it out. It's a really good series.
Let's start queuing up the quiz.
Quiz it up.
Okay. I'll send us the link. Just a second. So everybody, it is darkenergy.games. And you should see a link in the chat any moment. Here we go.
Go to.
Boop, boop.
Noah, are you able to do the quiz with us?
Should be able to.
Good luck.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, if you're on your iPad right now, you could just open up a browser and do it. Steve, why do you get for when you get very sick?
Probably just low energy state in your brain.
How do you compensate for that?
Sleep.
Cocaine.
Cocaine, lots of it.
Right?
2% topical cocaine always does it for me.
This is not an endorsement of taking illicit drugs.
So my wife got cocaine drops in her eyes.
Yeah.
For what?
Dilates the pupils.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She has some issues with her eyes, and every 3 months or so she goes to the eye doctor, and they put cocaine drops in her eye.
We also use it for bleeding noses because it
It's
restricts the blood vessels.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good way to just instantly stop a bad nosebleed.
Yeah, don't take aspirin, right?
Yeah, don't take aspirin.
Yeah, blood thinner.
So again, it's darkenergy.games, everybody. We have about 250 people in there.
Wow, I'm surprised.
How many people do we have on the stream?
About 665.
Oh.
How many?
665.
Oh, come on. Somebody else join. Jeez. Somebody else.
Wake your neighbor.
665.
Get him on
Wake
this
your neighbors.
stream.
So here's a question. What is the giant plant behind Steve?
Oh,
Yeah, that's new. That's a new addition. It's fake. It's a fake plant. We were cleaning up our mother's house, and she had far too many of these, so I took one off her hands.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Bastard.
and because I needed something to break up that white closet door space behind me, and that plant works well. It does the job.
Now, Steve, would you say that fake plant has a mathematical relationship with the closet door?
Sure.
Okay, just check.
Many.
Does it have a gravitational field?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just
All right.
Bob, there's
trying
the
to
field.
update my
Yeah.
backdrop since it gets so much use now in the era of Zoom.
Yep,
Yeah, right.
it's all about the studio.
Steve, have you ever had one of your telehealth patients mention any of the
Nope.
doodads you have in the back? Nothing,
Never.
huh? Because if you were my doctor and I got a quick scan of your room,
Yeah,
there is no way that I would not mention some of the artifacts you have.
I
in there.
don't think they're looking at the stuff in the background. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be a fun
You should.
test.
You put all kinds
I
of
always
things
do
in the
that though when I'm
backgrounds.
zooming with other people. I always look at the shit they have in the
Me
background.
too. Always.
Of course.
You can learn so much about like what people are surrounded by.
I hate seeing piles of laundry and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez,
People,
that is
like,
literally
really laundry. Come on,
that not right.
can't you just push it off camera frame? Like you can't see what's over.
There's a lot of
But I-
little doodads back there. If you're paying attention, and I'm adding new ones all the time.
Did you ever see that video? The woman is going through security at the airport, and they pick her out, and the guy. This is legit. This was like on the internet, and the guy opens the bag, and the
Makes it
woman
legit.
had multiple
Guns?
Birds of Paradise.
exercise partners in there. If you get my meaning,
Yeah.
she had dildos in her carry-on, and like everybody in security starts laughing. Like it's literally like one of the most embarrassing moments probably of her
How
life.
rude! Why would you do that to someone?
Just own it. Own it.
But how
I
did
know,
you
right?
not laugh though? Is the
I
other-
know, it's hysterical.
All right, let's synchronize.
Yeah.
Here we go. When I count down and say click, everybody click the synchronize button. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, click.
I missed it.
Yes.
Okay.
Once again, I'm a big 0.
But why would you put those things in your carry-on bag? Wouldn't you just put them in your luggage? Like,
right.
unless maybe she was traveling without a suitcase. But
Yeah,
still.
maybe.
Must
come
have
the
been. 'Cause,
numbers.
Yeah, that's that's too obvious. Because they could go through your carry-on. It could happen.
There you go, Mark Heil. I. Very good. I was waiting for someone to say how many seconds they were behind, and they wrote I. I was looking for it. They're paying
Excellent.
attention to today's
Some
show.
eye seconds behind.
We
us.
would have also accepted Bruce Lee seconds.
Yeah.
All right, I think we got a lot of people. Well, you know what that means. It is Time for Jay to cough. Quiz time. There is a mute button, Jay.
The theme is
Sorry.
United States
fine.
taxes, federal taxes. These
That's
are
right.
federal, not state. Okay.
I'm barely keeping it together.
Federal
So everyone
taxes.
who
This
is
will wake you up, Jay.
missing
Okay, thank
out
you.
on understanding U.S. tax law.
It's about
Now's
U.S.
your
taxes.
time.
Sorry, people in elsewhere who don't have any idea what's going on. Just play along, and you'll sit and give it your best shot.
It'll
Watch,
make
you'll be better
perfect
than
sense.
People.
It'll make perfect sense. All right, here we go.
Let's do it.
And away we go. Which one of these is not a filing status for U.S. tax filers? Single, married, filing separately, head of household, qualified dependent.
Filing status, U.S. tax filers. It's at the top of your form, the
I
very
know this
first
one.
thing you declare is
I know
what
it,
is
Evan.
your status? That's question number 1.
Do you though?
I didn't know it.
Wait
Damn.
wait a few seconds, please.
I got it wrong, Evan.
Oh,
Damn it.
yeah. Well, this is actually not
know
necessarily
this.
a easy thing to understand. Let me know when I can go in.
I
Yeah,
probably
go
gave
ahead.
the same
I know
answer
why.
you
I know
did,
why.
Jay.
Go ahead, Evan.
Correct answer is qualified dependent is not a filing status. Single, married, filing separately, head of household, all are. Qualified dependent has to do with dependents of people who are filing. So
A qualified dependent wouldn't be filing taxes.
correct. That's right. Hence the word dependent.
But I
Next.
filed my taxes as a dependent once.
I filed taxes last year.
Which of which of these people must file a 2020 federal tax return? A 12-year-old who sold $300 worth of lemonade from their stand, a 45-year-old who received $700 from a friend for a computer repair services, a 62-year-old who redeemed $35,000 of New York State bonds, a 65-year-old qualifying widow who earned $26,000.
Only
wages.
one of these people is required to file the federal tax.
Got it.
form.
I didn't get it.
Wait about 10 seconds, and then you
Okay.
can explain.
Yep, and I'll just with the limited time, I'll just give the wrong answer, the correct
Yeah.
answer. Ready?
Go ahead.
45-year-old who received $700 from a friend for computer repair services. If you get $400 or more for what's called freelance work, you must file $400. That's it.
400? I thought it was
400.
600.
No,
It doesn't matter how
600 to
old you are?
file. 600 to have to file a form 1099. 400
Oh,
is the income, gross income.
wow. Which one of these expenses is not potentially tax deductible? Donations to a political party, a fishing boat, sales taxes paid for the year, or replacement hip?
One of these expenses is not tax deductible. The others are potentially tax deductible. But one of them is right out, as they say.
Ah. I missed it. Damn it.
Got that one.
This is why I hire people to do my tax.
You and others, Jay. Let me know, Ian.
You go ahead.
Donations to a political party are never tax deductible under any circumstances, whereas there are circumstances where the other ones could potentially be deductible.
I thought that all donations were tax deductible.
No, not to
political
political
parties.
parties.
Not political.
Never,
Well,
ever,
well.
ever. Under no circumstances.
Jay's like, I got to redo my
Yeah,
taxes.
shit.
Yeah, oops, better amend.
I received a phone call from the IRS informing me I have unpaid taxes. What should I do? Verify your social security number with them, hang up the phone and contact the Federal Trade Commission, give them my credit card and bank information, ask to speak with a supervisor.
Only one of these answers is correct.
This is funny, Evan.
Yeah.
Even in my compromised state, yeah.
Give it about 5 seconds.
Sure.
Blah.
Yeah, scam that.
Okay.
Pretend to
Yeah.
You
be-
will hang up the phone and contact the Federal Trade Commission. Those are the instructions on the IRS website as far as what you should do if you get a call, because the IRS will not call you unsolicited. What that means, unless you called them first and they're calling you back. Otherwise, they will never call you. It is always a scam.
Okay.
Jay took that personally.
Yeah, I won't do it, Evan.
Okay.
Yeah, please don't.
When was the IRS established? 1789, 1913, 1910, or 1862?
God damn.
I don't like any of these numbers.
Only one of them actually makes sense if you think about it.
Yeah, if you think about it, but you might be surprised as to what it actually is.
Yeah, I am going to be surprised. I know I'm wrong.
Are we loving this quiz now, by the way?
I like it.
It just shows me how little I know.
Let me know, Ian.
Give it about 5 seconds.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
1862. The Lincoln administration, Civil War, obviously, they had to raise money for the war effort. So he had to establish the Commission of Internal Revenue, or IRS, precursor to what is the modern IRS. Some people think it's in the early 1900s, but that's not true.
That's what I thought. But that's when, like, taxing your wages was started.
Got the next question.
Yep. Next question.
All right, next question is all of these are types of taxable income except for baseball cards sold at a profit, bartering, cash gifts received, or Bitcoin sales sold at a profit.
So in one of these situations, it's non-taxable income. So which one is not taxable to you in these scenarios?
Wow, I'm fucking wrong again.
Wow, me too, man. I thought for sure I had this one, but
So wait, how much money could you get as a gift and not get taxed?
Yeah, I thought there was a limit.
A lot. No, there's a limit to how much you can give to other people, but receiving the gift, it's unlotted. You can receive as much as you want in gifts and not have to pay tax on. It's
So
the
meaning like 100
givers.
people.
It's the givers who have
Yes.
potential taxable issues.
But I thought bartering, like if I trade my car for your boat, the government
That's
doesn't get
complex,
involved.
Jay, but no.
Okay.
All right, next one.
Final question?
Final question?
I think.
Just wait a couple seconds. Okay, the heirs of this company. Okay,
Yep.
the heirs of this company paid $0 of federal estate taxes. Walmart, Royal Dutch Shell, Apple, the New York Yankees.
So the heirs, people who inherited these companies, one of them, they paid no inheritance tax, no estate tax.
Ooh, I got it right.
It's actually quite a famous
me too, Jay.
situation if you were paying attention to the
That's
news
second.
not long ago. Answer? Ready?
Okay, go ahead.
The New York Yankees. In 2010 is when George Steinbrenner died, and there was a special provision in 2010 specifically and only in that year in which there were no federal estate taxes for inheritances. 2010 only, and they the kids got over $1 billion inherited. They didn't have to pay any estate tax on it.
Oh, well, I mean, look, I don't believe in estate tax in general. I just don't like. Oh, why? Because the money was already earned. It was already paid taxes on. Like parents should be able to transfer funds to their children without taxes, the government getting involved.
That is a complicated ethical question, and there are ethicists who would argue that the fairest situation is a 100% inheritance tax. And if you did not earn the money, you don't have any more right to it than anybody else. And if you want a society with the maximal amount of mobility and fairness and equitability and all that stuff, you should have a 100% inheritance tax. I don't agree with that. I'm just saying there are ethics philosophers who make a strong case for that.
Strong.
But having a 0% estate tax, I think, is the extreme other end of the spectrum. I think
I don't know.
Something in the middle is probably
I
good.
haven't thought about it enough to literally put my nickel down. I wasn't thinking of the consequences of
because it does not impact, frankly, that many people. In a very small percentage of people, it has significant impact for.
But it actually can be quite a few people. Like if you live if your family runs a farm, and the last parent dies, should the family lose the farm because it's getting passed down generations? See, I don't think that should be the case. But yeah, if people have millions of dollars in the bank, should their kids just get it all tax free? I think there's a good argument to be made for having like some limit, like beyond some point, you really need to be paying taxes on that because
that might be reasonable.
Significant
I
income.
that. Yeah. I mean, look, it's easy as somebody that doesn't make millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, let's tax the uber rich people, but I mean, I think that the country needs money, and the country gets a ton of money from taxes.
It's not just that, Jay. You also have to think about There is the fact that in every society, pretty much, not everyone, but in most societies, over time, there is increasing gap in wealth, right? There's income inequality. Basically, there's no way to stop people with power and money to use their power and money to get more power and money.
Yes.
I hate when
And
that
so
happens.
that just happens until one of two things happens, right? Either there's a revolution
Yeah.
or there's
Or we
some
eat them.
kind of equalizing factor that redistributes power and wealth so it doesn't just infinitely aggregate into smaller and smaller hands. And if you don't want a revolution of the 99% against the 1% or the 99.9% against the 0.1%, whatever, you need some way to sort of hit the reset button on each generation. And estate taxes are a great way to do that. Otherwise, you're perpetuating just inherited privilege and inherited power and everything. There's no way to. I don't agree with trying to completely eliminate the transfer of privilege from parents to kids because we don't want to hold people back from succeeding. My wife and I were just talking about this actually because our daughter is applying for her first job, right? And so she had an application. She showed us the application, and my wife and I have both been on both ends of this where we have evaluated applications, we've evaluated candidates, and we've also applied for things. And so we were able to give her fairly nuanced advice about how to tweak and optimize her application, right?
Yeah.
So that was absolutely a transfer of our privilege to our daughter. No question about it. Kids from who didn't have parents who were both professors, wouldn't have had the same advantage. But I don't think that's the kind of thing that you should, prevent or, if you read to your kids, you're transferring advantages to your kids, right? So there's so much built in anyway that's basically a good thing. Just giving them loads of money doesn't need to happen also. I think that's something that we're better off using that money to sort of redistribute the wealth a little bit so that we have some kind of built-in check on this otherwise unavoidable society breaking trend of income inequality, right? So we want to, and this works for everybody because otherwise eventually society is going to break. It's not going to be sustainable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean we're definitely seeing like this runaway number of rich people and their ability to dodge paying taxes and manipulate the system, and I think it's so obvious that this world, especially in the United States, but I'm sure like tons of other countries have this problem where like the rich are they run everything, and that's
and they can afford to hire the people to help them with the loopholes and the other things that exist in the system that they can maintain the ability to pay the minimal amount of tax as possible.
Guys, Bob knows this. I know this. Evan, you're probably just learning this. I don't know if Rachel's going to college. The difference in when we went to college and our kids went to college is stark. Everybody, at least in Connecticut, everyone is using these add-on services to give advantages to their kids, to prep them for the exams, to help them prepare their applications, all this stuff. It's like an arms race of privilege. You know what I mean? It's so starkly different than it was when we were going to college. And that kind of arms race is kind of inevitable because when somebody else does something, well, then in order to compete, you got to do the same thing. But that automatically exacerbates this inequality because obviously the more resources you have, the more of an advantage you're going to be able to give your kids. And that's only if we're counting legal advantages. Obviously, there are famous cases recently of wealthy, privileged parents, cheating the system in order to give their kids advantages. That's obviously, everyone gets outraged at that, which of course they should be. But there's so many legal, legitimate, ways of doing it as well. It really is amazing when you start to think about it. And it's just not good for society to have that be too far out of control. The other thing is Henry Ford had a very critical realization, which I give him a lot of credit for, because obviously he was a fabulously wealthy guy, one of the first billionaires, right, in the U.S.
Probably.
He realized that if he paid his workers really well, they would have more money to buy stuff, and he would benefit from that, and his company would benefit from that. And sometimes I think rich people kind of, some think that they want more money for themselves, but actually you're going to be better off in a society where there's lots of people, lots of middle-class people with disposable income.
Absolutely.
That's good for business. It's good for everybody. You don't want to be in a world where 99% of the people are miserable, especially because eventually they're coming for your ass.
Yeah, that's right.
You want to live in a society where everyone's happy and doing well. You can go to a restaurant and the people running the restaurant are getting along fine. They're doing well. But you have to be living in some kind of really privileged, gilded cage sort of situation to be so disconnected from reality that you really don't care what's happening to the 99%. And there absolutely are people in that situation. Like, you listen to some people speak from positions of overwhelming privilege, and you're like, holy shit, they are living in a different world than we are.
Oh yeah.
It's
Welcome
just
to the bubble.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think my philosophical goal is similar to what Star Trek is. You know what I mean? Like, it's total equality. People get a free education. The society really is just trying to help people become the best that they can and draw out the talents that they have.
Yeah.
But we're, you look at our reality, we're at such a ridiculous place. Like, we should be healthcare and education should be two of the first things that we privilege people with, everybody with.
Yeah.
It's so obvious.
Well, clearly there should be a baseline, right? There should be a baseline below which nobody should fall. Like, nobody should be living in poverty, however we define that. Right? I think an enlightened society. When I was taking my ethics course in college, there was a really good principle that I thought, which ever since then I thought it made so much sense. Like, I've always used that as a guiding light. And here it is. How would you design a society if you had no idea where in that society you were going to be placed?
Oh, that's so brilliant.
Nice.
That's brilliant. Yep.
Right?
Nice.
Yeah. So what's the lowest common denominator for you then? That's what it is. But I don't want to get into this huge discussion about the rich not paying taxes, but Amazon as an example, like, it keeps coming around where, like, the incredibly small, if zero amount of taxes like some of these huge companies pay, like these types of things should be corrected immediately with the stroke of a pen. Like, what the hell are we doing? It just blows my mind. Like how do we let these atrocities go on? Because there's so many rich people and rich companies and everything.
Because the powerful have the power to protect their privilege. Absolutely.
And in the global economy, there's that mobility factor. There's competition. In other words, by the countries, Ireland, among others, reducing their tax rates in order to encourage the companies to go be in their country.
So, ironically, a lot of the same people who are in that position are always touting free market and meritocracy. Yeah. Two things I believe in. I think free markets are powerful. Yep. And I believe we need a meritocracy so that, we want the cream to rise to the top. We want, what I mean? And that's going to drive a lot of excellence and innovation, and that's all good. But it always seems the same people are beating the drums of meritocracy and free markets the loudest are the ones that are using their power the most to inhibit the free market and to inhibit meritocracy, right?
Right, whatever preserves.
Okay, if you're for free markets, you cannot be for all trillions of dollars worth of subsidies to the fossil fuel industry. How about that?
Yeah.
Where's the free market there? You can't put your giant thumb on the scale and then call it the free market. If you're for a meritocracy, you should be for a 100% inheritance tax, right? Earn your way, or absolutely earn your way. Then, that's the best thing for society.
I like how Australia and New Zealand run their societies.
They got their shit together.
They do. You read about the laws that they pass, and you're like, they get it, and they have the balls to do it.
Yeah.
United States is this country is so unbelievably effed up.
We're going through a rough patch.
Yeah, we're going through.
I think we have our strengths and weaknesses. we're definitely going through a rough patch. Hopefully, things are getting better at this point in time. But
Steve,
my
check this
God,
out. Here's reality.
there's some insanity in this country now. It's just unbelievable.
This is the meme that I saw a couple of nights ago. It's a picture of the latest guy that plays Superman, who I love, that plays The Witcher, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a really handsome picture of him dressed up as Superman.
He's done with Superman, though.
This is what Americans think. This is what Americans think of America. And then the picture below that is the guy from The Boys. What's his name?
Homelander.
And the caption under him is, and this is what the rest of the world thinks. It's so true. It's so freaking true. Like but anyway, I'm losing my consciousness here, and I got to play this. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but my voice was so effed up last night, and I was putting my daughter to bed, and so you'll hear her giggling in the background. But I made a recording for Bob because he loves it when my voice tanks like this. So check this out.
This is a message for Uncle Bob. I am a synth human-like organism sent here from the future to deliver this message to you. Your niece, Olivia Michael Novella, would like you to know from the future that she loves you. Here is a recording of her from 20 years ago.
So anyway,
wait.
What?
What is she?
It gets better.
I don't want to bore everyone, but I just thought that was funny.
She finally does give me my message, and the entirety of that message is Uncle Bob, and that's it. That's her message from the future. Not lotto numbers, but it was still adorable.
When my voice gets that bad, for some reason it drops super low. I can do the lowest of low voices. So I was like, what can I do to entertain Bob right now? What's that, Steve?
Not Barry White low.
No. I mean, I don't have that level of quality anyway. But it's fun, man. Anyway, guys,
can we do one or two questions just really quick?
All right,
before Jay turns into a puddle of goo.
Yeah.
Okay, kind of a long one, but the former director of the CDC said that he believes COVID escaped from the lab. Typically, it takes some time for viruses to figure out how to become very infectious. I've seen the argument that that China was moving to improve the virus through the gain of function research. Could you explain how that works, and even if that's feasible?
I mean, a gain of function just means a mutation that increases what something is doing. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily a good thing. It just means that it's an increased functionality, whatever that functionality is. So yeah, I mean, I still think that, we don't have proof that it escaped from a lab. It's not impossible. I think it's still a little bit of an open question. When the World Health Organization went there not too long ago, they concluded that they could not find any evidence that there was released from a lab. But of course, we don't know if the Chinese are hiding anything from us, because that would be a PR disaster for them, and they are definitely very sensitive about it. So we just don't know at this point, and there's some good reasons to think that it wasn't released from a lab, but I still think that's not a definitively answered question. It frankly wouldn't shock me if that is the ultimate conclusion. Yeah. I don't think it was engineered and deliberate. I don't think it was a conspiracy. Like, we're going to unleash this virus on the world. I think that
an accident.
I think it might have been an accidental release of something they were doing research on. But there's no smoking gun at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it was sad to know in my heart that if we found out conclusively that it did get released from a lab, even by accident, no mustache twisting, just a release, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah.
Because China, I think, is so scary. I mean, did you hear what Biden said about the leader of China? He said he doesn't have a democratic bone in his body. Like, whoa, things have to be pretty bad for that kind of, for Biden to say shit like that. Like, that's serious.
That's true, though.
I don't disagree, but it's just sad. Like, China is like becoming the bad guy in a way that America will always have them beat, but China's runner up, I think.
Next question: has Bob had a chance to try his REM sleep mask?
No,
not the band, but REM.
Oh, I was going to say that.
No, I have not, but I will report soon on my first trial of it. I promise. I keep forgetting. Will do. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
This actually comes from last week. What VR system would you recommend for a kid of 7?
I mean, I
least
haven't done a
expensive
deep
one
dive
there-
on the different VR systems. You know, I use the Vive. That's really the only
I
one
still
I
have to buy
know.
my first.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't,
Get one that is not super expensive because it's probably going to get broken at some point. You know, because kids do.
yeah,
not
if you want a
treat electronics
starter,
well.
you want a starter VR system.
Yeah,
You can use one with you can put your phone in. I mean,
Yeah, but I don't
It's
know how
pro-
good they are.
well,
I
you
would
know.
think you might want it to be, although this doesn't track with what I just said, but it's probably easier if you don't have it be a wired headset, just because the kids also don't have that.
Yeah, but the
thing in their
wireless
brain.
is super expensive.
I know, I realize that, but I'm just
It's gonna be
saying
like
from
$1,000, I think, for the
Kid
Vive.
forgets
Well-
they're tethered and they go
Yeah.
running off. And
The original Oculus Quest, I think, is wireless, and that is cheaper now.
Oculus.
But
Yeah,
it's
you
a
can get
Facebook
an old.
product,
If you're
so
looking
don't
to get like
that.
a starter system and you're worried they're going to break it or whatever, you want to give them a taste of it, you can get an older one. You know
Yeah.
that they could be pretty cheap because people are buying, selling them on eBay and getting the newer ones. You know, depending on what you're looking for.
I think I
Now-
might be getting a new headset like a year from now.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that angle of view to go out. It's like 110 degrees now.
Steve,
Soon
they
as
have
somebody comes out,
there is one.
What-
Some I can't forget the name of the company. I was just
111
reading-
degrees.
I mean, the headset is like this. It goes out to like.
oh, I know
here.
that. I'm not talking about that ridiculously huge one. I don't. I'm,
But that,
I
they
saw
did-
that well. I'm like, there's no way I'm strapping that monstrosity to my face. I'm just hoping for something like, how about 120, 130? You know, give it a little bit more, even just a little bit more angle of view. I think would really increase the experience.
For me,
Um,
the turning point is eye tracking.
Yeah,
When-
eye
when it's-
tracking it would be nice.
Whoa.
You know, the ones where they have they have the intelligent resolution where they're you know, it's high res
Right.
wherever you're looking. So it's
where
not
your
wasting
phobia is.
processing speed,
That's a
giving you high
no-brainer,
res
man.
out in the periphery. Yeah,
No brainer.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm paying. As soon as we get past a certain threshold where I think, all right, that's enough of an improvement, I'll probably
Yeah.
upgrade my system. But I haven't seen anything right now that's worth like dropping another grand on a new system.
Yeah,
though, but
but
the Vive is fine.
it's good. You know, game makers are now investing more money into making games specifically for VR. We're just now seeing it happen. So I think
they're
you know,
good.
within the,
Yeah.
Playing VR
next-
games now a lot more recently.
Yeah.
Guess where I'm going after this?
to the toilet.
Bathroom,
Well,
Actually,
actually, yes. But where am I going right after the bathroom?
Disney
To the
World?
refrigerator.
You'll never guess. Going to Petco with mom.
Wow.
She-
I wouldn't have guessed that.
She's
Why?
getting a fish tank, and we're
What?
gonna fill it with
With
so
what?
Liz's
Mom wants
friend.
to get into her fish thing again.
No, Liz's friend is moving. She's selling this big ass fish tank for a cheap price. So mom's like, sure, let's get it. So we're gonna fill it with cool stuff like, you know, like a sunken treasure and a pirate ship. Well, that's what I'm gonna be pushing for.
Are you going to be putting actual
We'll see
fish in
what-
there?
Well, she's got fish. She's gonna be getting fish from the person we're buying it from. So
Oh, okay.
So I'm
Buying
going
a
to
fish
Petco.
tank with fish.
Yes.
So our mother went through a fish phase when we were younger. You guys, I'm sure, remember that. The house was full of like a dozen fish tanks for a couple
Wow.
of years there, and she was just, you know, fish crazy. I remember we were in like first grade, right, when she was in her fish phase.
Fish phase.
Yeah.
Noah,
yeah,
thanks
we-
for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Noah. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
Thank you, Noah.
Yep.
You got it, brother. It was good.
Thanks for the
It was
Bruce
good to-
Lee chat. Always fun to talk about Bruce.
It was good to see your face again. I haven't seen you in like 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Jay, there's
boy.
some sort of science conference happening sometime.
Oh yes,
Movie?
yes. I should. Yeah, let me tell everybody everything that's going on. So
Please.
first, if you go to stores dot,
You can just say
custom-
shop/shop.
oh, yeah,
Skeptics Guide /shop.
sorry, you're right, Ian. Go to skepticsguide.org/shop.
.org/shop.
I'm out, kids.
That's our new store.
All right,
You can
bye,
go
Bob.
to nexus.org,
Can't wait.
nexss.org for the conference, which we're actively filling in all the speakers and everything. And what else do we got, Steve? We have what else did I want to mention?
The game
The
show.
Nexus?
store?
The game show.
Who? The game show?
Nexus,
Yeah,
the
but
game-
we're about a month away from doing the next game show. When we pick the date, I'll announce it. I can't remember it. I thought we had one other announcement.
Not Nexus.
No, that was it. Okay, that's it.
The thing that we've been working on, kind of, that Steve spurred, and then that thing. Do you want to tell about that? Or
yeah,
no?
well, we're right now learning about the non-fungible token. The whole idea of selling things that a brand has. Like you could buy How would you describe it, Ian? I don't know if everyone knows about it.
NFTs are a way to sell digital goods that are kind of verified that they are coming from the actual source. It's like a collector's item of specialty SGU stuff that we'll be putting together, and coming up with ideas of that. What exactly
it uses
the NFTs will
blockchain,
be.
doesn't it?
It does, yes. So the one that we're using is built off of Ethereum. It's going to be on a marketplace that we will reveal to everybody. So it's a pretty interesting thing if people are into the cryptocurrency and the techie world and stuff like that. So
yeah,
they're hot. They're hot right now. So if
it's
anybody
fun.
has any suggestions as well of things you want, I mean, digitized Bob 3D model for some sort of use. I don't speculate on that, but it can be done. Other things? Anybody?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, that's it.
Have a wonderful weekend, guys.
Bye, guys.
Don't worry about me. I'm going to be fine.
Have fun.
Stay healthy.
Feel better, Jay. So
Hit that
well.
like
Bye.
button.
Thank you.
Hit
Ian.
that
Thank you,
like
Ian.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank you, Ian.
everyone.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Skeptic's Guide to the Universe is produced by SGU Productions, dedicated to promoting science and critical thinking. For more information, visit us at theskepticsguide.org. Send your questions to info@theskepticsguide.org. And if you would like to support the show and all the work that we do, go to patreon.com/skepticsguide and consider becoming a patron and becoming part of the SGU community. Our listeners and supporters are what make SGU possible.